All right, guys, welcome back.
Yes.
Blackout edition. Ah, man, this show
Hottest show on the internet.
Taking the world by storm. It's truth in its purest form, unfiltered, uncut. That was the theme of the show. Me and Ian just wanted to kind of, have a platform to say things that might not be suitable for Market Mondays, and also speak more in a more long form, unscripted type of opinion based format. So Blackout was birthed, and it's been off to the runnings ever since. So appreciate you, man.
Man, I appreciate you too. This is advice that people need to hear. On the other side of success, there's some things you're gonna go through, and we're here to give you some insight. So
sure.
Let's get to it.
We got a dope show today. We got a guest. It's going to be very interesting. Child support. We're going to be talking about child support in depth. We talked about it a few times already, but this is going to be an interesting story for men and women. But first, I'll start by saying that this show is not suitable for children or sensitive men or entitled women.
They call us the new Derek Jackson.
I saw that. Little children, entitled women, and sensitive men should stay clear, because this is something that is very educational if you listen, but take everything with a grain of salt. Definitely before you act on anything, think about it 3 times. But I tell you what, we may tell you a joke, but we'll never tell you a lie. And if you listen hard enough, you can actually learn something, because there's a lot of jokes, but there's also hidden gems in here. So pick it up. It's like shopping at TJ Maxx back in the days. You got to go through a bunch of racks to find the gem, but you're going to be entertained while you're going through the racks.
That's not tricking advice, by the way.
Racks in the middle.
Hey.
All right. Okay. So we got a few topics that I want to talk about before we bring our guest on. But first, I just want to start with something at the top of the show, because I saw this video on Instagram. I sent it to you. I don't know if you saw it yet, but I want to squatters. There's an epidemic of squatters. This is a financial topic for anybody that's in real estate. If you own a house, if you're a landlord, it's something to consider. So cue the video.
Flushing, Queens. She's in the process of selling it.
No, he locked it.
But she's been locked out. She claims squatters moved in on February 6th and refused to leave.
What's it like being here knowing you can't go inside of your own home?
It's enraging. It really is.
In New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
By the time that someone does their investigation and they do their work and their job, we'll be well over the 30 days, and this man will have stolen my home. And now she's back.
Just after wrapping up our interview, a woman showed up.
What are you doing in the house? Are you renting this house? Why are you here?
She unlocked the front door, saw our cameras, and took off.
It's open. Let's go in the house. It's open.
Adele and her daughter, with the property deed in hand, went inside.
This is my furniture. These are my curtains.
She didn't just find her belongings inside.
There's a man sleeping right there. Get out of my house.
She found 2 men.
How long have you lived here?
I moved in about 2 days ago.
They've called the police on me, and I've called the locksmiths. I didn't come in illegally. The door was open.
Police started interviewing neighbors and looking for documents.
Okay, so I would take a break in the middle of the video because I want to just explain a few things, right? So here's some information that you may or may not be aware of. So I live in New York State. So, I saw this video, and the video is based on New York State. So I'm looking at squatter rules. Here's some interesting stats when it comes to squatter laws in New York State. Owners must use legal action, right? So property owners must go through the courts to remove squatters, which can be a long and expensive process. So if somebody's staying in your home, you can't just kick them out with a gun.
Kick him out. Yep.
You have to go to court. We'll talk about this after the second part of the clip, but just keep that in mind. Owners have to take legal action. The second one is there's no harassment allowed, right? So what does that mean? Owners can't force squatters out through threats or changing the locks. They must follow legal steps. And the last one that I thought was interesting is that tenants versus squatters, people who stay after a lease ends. So if you even have a legal tenant, right? But the lease is up, right? So people that stay after a lease ends without permission have some protections similar to squatters, but there are rules to follow for eviction. So let's play the second half of the video.
You're getting arrested right now?
Being arrested
For what?
for being in my own home.
And where's your lease?
She's buying the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed is current and legal.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
So how does this all end then? When do you leave?
The way it ends is either she pays me my money that I put into the house, pay me the money, and I'll leave, or send me to court, and we deal with the judge in court. It's that simple.
It's not that simple. It's a long process. Eviction can take close to 2 years to complete.
You know the law. Yeah, there's laws. You shouldn't be trying to steal my house. Yes, you are.
How about that?
Okay.
It's a lot to talk about.
All right. This is triggering for me to watch. Everybody knows I have a real estate issue going on right now. I don't have a squatter issue, but anything with real estate right now is triggering for me. But I just don't understand. You know, it's one of these things, right? Where I get that you're trying to protect people,
Tenants, yeah.
How is it possible that if I have a home, I move to Florida, my home is vacant, somebody moves into my home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sets up shop, I come back 8 weeks later, I can't kick them out. I have to go to court. I have to file legal paperwork. I have to stand in front of a judge. This can take months. Meanwhile, they're living in my property. I can't threaten them. I can't go try to beat them up. I can't bring the guys with me. I can't have a gun. I can't do none of that. They can legally call the police on me, get me arrested for harassment on my own property that they live. This is New York state law, and a lot of other states are similar to this. What in the hell is this, bro?
Ladies, let's update it. 2 simps, 2 semis, squatting 2 properties. I'm gonna go to New York, find you something in the Bronx. Don't leave, pack a bag, little makeup wipes, and stay there. Take over. This is crazy. Maybe one day we can have Ish come on and talk about how he deals with this in Jersey. But I'm calling a Sioux Surf. I'm calling Sioux Surf people or something. Like, but it's different in Texas. You got to call the people. But I think, well, who wrote this law? I know you want to have protection for citizens, but remember, every week I keep saying, as you become wealthy or rich, as soon as you walk out the house, people are going to find ways to rob you. When a house is one of the biggest investments you can make, they're like clubs. I want to go look after you sent the video. There's like groups on Facebook that are teaching people how to do this.
That's a fact.
They're teaching the big finesse for sure.
So in Texas, this isn't flying in Texas.
Oh, AR-15 Kel-Tec Mossberg. Ain't nothing that flying, boy. So I don't even think you have more than 30 days to be late on your rent.
So is it a liberal thing?
I think it's the liberal issue. Georgia, they're not playing that. Like maybe some parts of Georgia, but Midtown, Buckhead, you're not squatting for long. So I get having the protections, and maybe I will understand it if it was like November, December, January, even though it's not snowing in New York and New Jersey. No, it just rain, right? But to let somebody stay in your house for 3 months and then for that girl to get arrested and show that here's my deed, then the cop and the guy comes and breaks back in, bro, what are we talking about? No.
And it's one of these things where, I'm pretty liberal in my social stances. I have a lot of liberal views, but some of these liberal policies are just going too far. I don't know if you saw in Illinois where the judge just okayed illegal immigrants to carry firearms legally. They giving
that's crazy.
They're giving migrants money. Now you got protection for squatters that can live in your house, and you can't. Like, I'm just trying to think in what thought process did somebody writing a law think that this is a good idea? Like, how can you rationalize this? I'm just trying to see like the other side of it, right? Where it's like, okay, this would make sense in this scenario. I can't find any scenario where this makes sense.
I mean, unless you're campaigning on that. If we're going to be honest and talk about the immigrant situation, I think the Democrats are going to try and find a way to use them for votes. They need them. Russia had the bots when Trump came in. You got the immigrants. Now, if you give them guns and money, but you're not going to let them in a voting booth, it's tricky times we are in, man. I know even with Trump owing all that money, 484 million, they taking Mar-a-Lago possibly. It's still going to be tough for the Democrats to win.
My thing is, I'm never for violence, but if somebody's in your house, that's your castle, and they're just comfortable, just like you got the right.
You got to die.
You got the right to seriously hurt somebody.
You're gonna purge,
or take them off the planet, because it's like that's a man's castle. You don't disrespect the man's castle. That is just unbelievable. But it says a lot about the times that we're in, and it also, when you're talking about people having protection and it's the get over society, right, where people are literally getting over with government assistance to help them get over.
That's by design too. The other side of that is a lot of these provisions and entitlements are giving for two reasons. One, there's not enough jobs available. And they're not trying to make them because they outsource them all to India. And then number two, there's a base that you can cater to if you need to get reelected. Hey, if you vote for me, I'm going to give you cash in hand, guns in Illinois. I know y'all was worried about O-Block, but you got to worry about all the immigrants with guns now. Shit, let Dirk and Vaughn have the gun. God rest his soul, and FBG Duck, if that's the case too. But I think they're catering to a certain audience to say, I'm going to look after you. But I think this is egregious at best. Like, we need a whole revamping of the Republican and Democratic system and how they do things and how they vote. This is unbelievable. And this is going to get dangerous. If it's family, it would be different. Like, you still can't squat for 3 months, but for a stranger just to be in your house eating up all your kids' juicy juice, like, bro, you got to go. You have to go. And then y'all can't have guns in New York. People are like, why don't you move to New York? Boy. Yeah. I got a lot to pack up.
It's almost over. It's almost over.
Okay.
Switch gears. Let's talk about dating. Can you date someone who had a different religion than you? This is something that's actually a big thing. It's one of these things, right? When you get into a relationship, you don't think about a variety of different things. We talked about finances a bunch of different times, but religion is something that is extremely divisive often. People have wars over religion, right? Historically, dating back thousands of years to this date right now. And religious beliefs is something that comes into play, especially when you're having children, or you think about getting married. It's all right. So, could you date somebody with a different religious belief than you? Are you Catholic?
No, I went to Catholic school.
You went to Catholic school, right?
Yeah. But I grew up Methodist. Other side of the family was Baptist, so I'm like Reformed Christian. But don't, mom and dad, don't worry, I'm staying away from it. Could I? Maybe, like, if she was absolutely amazing, maybe, but I think there could be some conflict there. I've done it one time before in college and it was cool. Shout out to her. But I don't know.
What religion was she?
She was Muslim.
Okay.
And if we want to talk about it, probably based on religious belief, had the best qualities of a girlfriend. I was just young and wild and free and didn't want to hear not a 19, not me at IU. Oh no. But in terms of like catering and act right, magnifico. But maybe I could if she was amazing. And my thoughts on religion as a construct has changed a lot over the last 10 or 15 years. So it's not as the staple that it used to be. To me, so it's more about morals, if you will, but possibly it depends on who the person. There's always an exception to the rule, so maybe. But if she was like, I don't know, a witch that practiced dark arts, I couldn't do it. But like, if she wasn't Christian, it wouldn't be the biggest deal.
Okay, yeah, I think for me, it's a matter of it would be difficult if somebody was extremely opposite, like like if somebody was a devil worshiper, right?
Yeah, couldn't do that. And they're out there.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
They're out there.
If somebody was a devil worshiper, that's not something that, I can't.
So if you walk in the girl house and she baddie, she take her clothes off lingerie, but she got the Santeria shrine up there. What you doing?
Well, the Santeria, that
could be used for good or evil.
Well, yeah. That's a indigenous religion, right? So that's like voodoo. Actually, like, you know, a lot of people say voodoo has got a bad name, got a bad rap.
Yeah.
It's not what the media has portrayed it to be.
Portrayed it to be
more African roots as far as the traditional religion and stuff like that. But I would say this, that if it gets to a point where it gets weird, like if I see you cutting off a chicken's head and spitting out alcohol.
She can't wrap a chicken foot like this and throw it at you. Boy. Gotta go. Spit it to Santa, please. God, get me out here. During Ramadan would be crazy. You hungry? Chicken not getting wrapped around. Nah, I'm cool. I gotta go. Sorry. No. Like if a girl says she's spiritual, you gotta dig a little deeper than just, oh, okay, that's cool. I don't know.
So
foot turned to a chicken foot.
So but
fellas, you got to be careful. Let me see your brush. No, you ain't finna take none of my hair home and put it in the oven. And no.
But you know what I don't like on any side is people that's very judgmental people. Like I feel like super religious. It's crazy. A lot of times, not all the time, a lot of times the most religious people are the most judgmental people.
Judgmental.
And I look at that's actually anti. No matter what path you believe in, what God you believe in, I feel like everybody has a right to coexist. Everybody has a right to believe what they want. I hate people that always condemn other people. Like, oh, you're going to hell because you don't believe this, and don't bring this person around me because they don't believe what I believe. Like, that's the type of person that I can't be with because, you know, I'm not like that. Like, I never was like that. I didn't have the luxury to be like that. You know, when you're a minority religion in a society, like you can't afford to just isolate yourself. So everybody, all my friends, Christian, I always grew up with people that, you know, had different beliefs than me. So I was always open-minded. Like I don't think that, you know, closed-minded people make for good partners. So that would be my biggest caveat as far as somebody that's like ultra, like this is my way or the highway, and like always talking about other people, stuff like that. Like that would be.
They usually do the most sinning too.
And they
people who are the stupid devout like that.
And they
are the wildest ones. Yeah,
wildest. Like that's like the stricter you are, like the girls that went to Catholic school a lot of times, right? Like
I've been there. Oh, baby.
Yeah. So it's like sometimes it's like the people that you look at is like so perfect, or like they like you said, outside of that.
Boy.
Terrorist,
said Bishop. No. Shout out to everybody who went to be an named ran. Ooh, Lord. But okay, now is that true for if you have one girlfriend or if you have like three? Do they all have to be like in the same value range? Or can you have diversity? Like, does the main have to have certain values and then the other two can do whatever? Still no devil worshippers.
Yeah.
It's the real Holy Trinity.
I feel like a man is always leading the situation, right? So I have never really been in a situation where I was talking to a girl and she's leading anything, right?
Anything.
So I never really had an issue with that at all. To be honest with you, I feel like a lot of people now, millennials, believe in God, but they're not ultra beholden to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like as religious as far as that's concerned. So me personally, I never, it was never an issue for me, honestly. I couldn't think of one time where it was really an issue for me. But a lot of times it's the person's family also. That's another thing. Like sometimes it'd be like one girl actually, she her family, like her mom and all that, they were super religious. She wasn't really hung up on it, but it was like, yo, like, let's say it would have progressed to the point where we would have got like married, hypothetically speaking, they would have not been happy with that because of their religious beliefs. That happens sometimes, especially with immigrants. A lot of foreigners.
Gotcha. A
lot of foreigners' parents. And I've seen people that they actually had to break up relationships because not because they wanted to, but their family. Their family didn't okay. Like their family is like, nah, we're not doing that. So and I actually,
did they go on to find other people, or are they still single?
I think one of them actually found somebody else. One of them might be single, but yeah, you'd be surprised. A lot of these foreigners, everything. Race, they'd be like, no, he's too dark skinned, you can't be with him. Or religion, like, no, you can't be with him, he's not our religion. Or tribe, they're very a lot of foreign countries. That's why I say, like, even this culture thing, it's a gift and a curse that our culture is more of a bastardized culture. Like, we don't have like a pure culture as far as African Americans, but that's a good thing in the sense of we don't have the same stigmas and holdups, and it's like we don't have those backwards traditions of like you can only be with this person and you can't be with somebody outside of this, and you have to get permission to do this. Like, we don't really operate in those realms.
But does our culture need that? Some of those structures or rules or tenets in the culture that others cultures have?
In some regards, I think it's helpful, but in a lot of regards, it's harmful, right? Because, like I said, I personally seen it. I saw people. I met this one girl. She was from Somalia, right? So this is crazy because if you know, Somalia is in Africa, east coast of Africa, and they dark skin, darker than me, darker than you, right?
Yeah.
Most Somalians, curly hair. It's you could tell along the line somewhere they have Arab influence, right? But I didn't really even realize this until I spoke to her, and she was like, a lot of Somalians, especially old school Somalians, they don't identify themselves as black; they identify themselves as Arabs. So what she was saying was that she wanted to marry, I think he was from like Southern Africa, like dark skin, like right, Uganda, one of these countries, and her mother didn't approve of it because he was black. But I'm like, but you're black. She like, I know, it's crazy. And she was like, her mother was to the point where she was gonna disown her. Tight. And she had, it took 2 years to convince the mother.
Crazy.
But so it's like you won't see that in America. Like, for the most part, it's not widespread. Like, you know, we don't have those backwards traditions of colonialism and tribalism. Like, we don't have those same. So that's actually beneficial, I think, because a lot of those countries, it stops people from moving forward because they're so stuck up in their traditions and their culture and their way of thinking that they're so fragmented, they can't even fully understand the ability to actually work with other people or communicate with other people or be with somebody else. So it's a very complex thing. All right. So I want to talk about Boeing, but before we talk about Boeing, because that's an important situation, we want to bring our guest on. We have a guest, ladies and gentlemen. Can we bring him up? All right. Lionell TJ Tillman, better known as Child Support is Fraud on Instagram. I saw his Instagram post a while ago, and he was recently on our girl Angela Yee's show. Shout out to Angela Yee.
Shout out to you.
And we've spoke about child support a few different times, but I thought that it would be a good conversation to have, especially on this platform, because this is like a no holds back type of vibe that we've curated here.
Got it.
And it's interesting. It's an interesting topic from a woman's standpoint, from a man's standpoint, from a child's standpoint. It's a whole ecosystem that's affected with child support. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So I got some questions for you, but can you tell your story? I think it's an interesting story, right? So can you tell your story? And that way we can kind of get a good feel of how we got here. Got it.
So I found out about my child support case 7 years after it opened. When I found out about it on payday, ironically. HR gives me a call, say, hey, come see us. I go to HR. HR says, hey, we got an income withholding order. That was the first time I've ever heard that. It's like, what is an income withholding order? They said, well, they're going to start garnishing your checks effective immediately. I'm like, who's going to start garnishing my checks? And they said, child support. I'm like, child support? What do you mean child support? They said, well, here's a notice. I contacted child support. They say, well, yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done. You had 6 months to respond. And it's been 7 years. And I'm like, 7 years? Like, what do you mean it's been 7 years? And she said, yeah, it's been 7 years. Unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done. I then go down to the court, speak to the family law facilitator. They tell me the same thing. According to family code X, Y, and Z, there's been a default judgment. It's been 7 years. There's nothing that can be done. And that went on for another 13 years.
So,
Wow.
all right, let's unpack the situation a little bit. So you found out that you had a child support case 7 years after it was filed, or
Yes.
so the child support case was filed in 2000, let's say. You found out in 2007, 7 years after that a child support case was filed, meaning
Correct.
that the child was already 7 years old, at least.
Correct.
So you didn't even know you had a child.
So we got to take it back when you ask. So the child was conceived when I was 12 years old.
When you were 12?
When I was 12.
What year was this?
Okay.
This was, at that time, it was 1992, 1991, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So it was a while ago. Yeah. So I was aware that a child was born. Again, I'm 12 years old at the time. I've always maintained, like, I never penetrated the woman. Like, I'm 12 years old. We don't know what we're doing. I know that she had a child, but here we go. Now it's 7 years after I turned 18. So I now just understand I'm 12. From 12 to 18, there's nothing. When I get to 18 to now, it's 7 years because they started
25,
the case.
25.
25, yeah.
Yeah. So they started the case as soon as when I turned 18 years old. So when 7 years after that, that's when I found out about the case.
Wow. So the child is a teenager.
Yes, at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had never seen a child before?
No, never.
How?
So when you went to court, what happened?
So now here's the thing. When I went to court, there was no I took them to court based on, in order to understand that. So look, I tell them they start suspending my license. In order for me to keep my license, I had to enter into another agreement with them on top of the money that they already start taking. I'm paying them an additional $50 so I can keep my license. But every year my license got suspended. So for 13 years, we're doing this dance. And I contact them one day, my license gets suspended. I'm saying, hey, well, why do we keep going through this? It's like, I don't even know why I'm doing this anyway. This fraud. And the lady said, fraud? Like, what do you mean it's fraud? Like, you got served. And I'm like, wait, I got served? She said, yeah, well, you got served. I said, well, tell me what day I got served. She placed me on hold. She comes back. I'm sorry, Mr. Tillman. We do not have your signature. I said, before I can say anything, the lady says, but that don't matter anyway. You volunteered into the program. I said, I did what? She said, yeah, you volunteered the program. We had your signature. She placed me on hold, comes back and says, again, I'm sorry, Mr. Tillman, we don't have your signature. So from that point, I knew that they were supposed to serve me and that child support was voluntary. And they said that I volunteered into the program. So I just started doing research. What else are they supposed to do? So once I studied their procedures and that's in 45 CFR, that's Code of Federal Regulations, and 42 USC, United States Code, it has all of their guidelines there. So once I seen what they were supposed to do, I went to the court to get the documents that they filed against me in the very beginning to see if they follow their own procedures.
So, okay, you go through this procedure, but for the audience, is the child yours or not? Because that's going to be the number one thing everyone wants to know. Is the child yours or no?
No. So now here's the thing, even with that, I requested DNA testing. They told me that DNA testing could be done. I asked, they said in order for DNA testing to be done at this point, it has to go through the woman. I submitted documents to her to take DNA testing. She declined the DNA testing. So what I did was I presented evidence, and then the courts actually said, well, wait a minute. At the time the child was conceived, he was 12 years old. This child may not have even been able to produce semen at that time. So there's no way possible that this child could have conceived another child at 12 years old, but the state just neglected this fact. So the courts ruled based on that I was not the father of the child.
So, okay. So you're from Compton, California. Right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, so at 12 years old, you have intercourse with a girl who's 13 years old. She's a little older than you. Right?
I never penetrated her.
Just touched it.
I never penetrated her.
You lose contract. You keep in contact with her throughout the years or no?
No, I was 12 years old. She was my cousin's friend. I met her that same day.
So just all right. So you don't speak to her again.
No.
When you're 18, you don't know this, but she files child support on you.
No, she got cash aid, food stamps, and the benefits because she was a minor herself when she had the child.
Okay.
So when they do the cash aid, the food stamps, and the benefits, now they go after the non-custodial parent to repay this grant.
So it doesn't fall on the state.
And then you find out that when you're 25 that you got all of this back child support that you owe.
Correct. It was $24,000 in arrears at that point.
$24,000.
Yes. That they issued out. They didn't issue a full $24,000 to her. They add on a 10% compounded interest every year onto every dollar. So your dollars are having babies.
And it's not even your kid.
And it's not even my kid. But that we've seen it many times to where parents actually take DNA testing and find out that they're not the father, but they're
still obligated.
They're still the legal father because they created a parent-child relationship with that child, or they went through the process, or there was a default, and now they're deemed the legal father.
Yeah, I know somebody who's like in New York, I believe it's like 2 years. You have 2 years to contest that you're not the father, and if you pay child support, and then like let's say in year 3 you find out that you're not the father, you still got to pay child support for the remaining.
You're the legal father.
So all right, so from an educational standpoint, when you're going through this like journey of educating yourself on the child support system, what's some of the things that you found out that nobody is aware of when it comes to child support?
First, I found out that child support is voluntary. Let's just start there. You have to consent in order to participate in this program. The consent, it's a contract. There has to be, what are the fundamentals of a contract? There have to be offer and acceptance. They send out a summons, and in order for them to start the actual case, you must be given notice of once you establish paternity, they have to provide both parents notice by audio, putting on some headphones, watching a video, or someone literally telling you what are the legal consequences of establishing voluntary paternity. What are the legal consequences? License suspensions, passports, income withholding orders, all of these things. The 45 CFR 303.5 says that at a minimum, they must do these things. If they do not, then paternity was never established.
For anyone because you've had the internet on fire the last 6 months, why do you say that child support is fraud?
Child support is fraud because they don't follow their own procedures. There's something called the separation of powers. And this is not my opinion. This is fact. There's a Supreme Court case law called Holmberg versus Holmberg, where child support services was found guilty of violating the separation of powers. What is the separation of powers? There's 3 branches of government: judicial, legislative, and executive branch. If you participate in one branch of government, you cannot participate in the other branch of government. But somehow child support was able to create their own family codes. That's legislative. They enforce their own child support orders and modify them. That falls under the executive branch, and they find you guilty or have a hearing in their own child support administrative hearings, which is they're participating in the judicial branch, even though they are administrative, and that they have been found guilty of violating the separations of powers. And when they said it's also unconstitutional. So anything that conflicts with the United States Constitution, any state statute or any state constitution that conflicts with the United States Constitution is null and void, because the United States Constitution and Supreme Court case law is the supreme law of the land.
So, okay, child support, I did some research. $32 billion was collected in 2021 in child support, right? So it's obviously business is booming these days. For sure.
To say the least.
To say the least,
right? And it's one of these things that I don't think no one's ever prepared. If you've ever been put on child support, it's like getting punched in the back of the head. You don't. There's no.
You don't see it coming.
You don't see
Right.
it coming. They just give you the paper. You've been served, like Nick Cannon. So for somebody that's in that situation, right? And I don't want to make this I don't want, because it's a very sensitive topic, and a lot of women. There's a lot of deadbeat dads out there, right?
True. Facts.
Yes.
So what would be your advice? Let's start for men that have just been served and they about to go through the process. And then what's your advice for women who actually have a legitimate case, have a father who's not doing anything, and they're going through the process?
Got it. Well, so first, I'm not an attorney, so I can't provide legal advice, just my experience dealing with child support. First, if a person was served with child support, the very first thing that I did was, once I found out what they were supposed to do, I went down to the clerk's office. I obtained copies of the summons, the complaint, the proof of service. I had a default judgment and the actual order, because that's what a remedy is. In order for child support to move forward, and this case to be valid, those documents have to be filed correctly. It has to be under the seal of the court and signed by the clerk thereof. That's 28 USC 1691. The person also has to be served. If they're not served correctly within 3.5 years, there's a Supreme Court case law called County of San Diego versus Gorham, where it says that judgment is void and it's a nullity, past, present, and future. Anything that comes through it and anything flows out of it is void. As far as on the women's side, I don't advocate for parents to not take care of their children. I just challenge the child support system to make sure that it follows its own procedures. I said it many times. I absolutely 1000%. If a man or woman is not taking care of their children, they 1000% need to be on child support. They need to be on. That's just what I am. Is no way around it. If that person is not taking care of their responsibility, they need to be on child support. And how does that happen? A person can go down to child support services and start a case. And it's a crazy, there's no checks and balances there, because I was actually in the child support office with my phone, and a young lady walks in and say, "Hey, I want to start a child support case." The very first thing that comes out the receptionist's mouth is, "You got a social security number?" That is a crime. You cannot give someone's social security number without their consent.
Then how do you do a claim then if you can't give your social security number?
Well, you can provide any information, because they have services on the, because
they track it. They track
exactly.
it.
Yeah, they'll check on that.
Contracted with the Social Security Administration, the hospitals, the birth records agencies. So once they get enough information, they can go and on the back end, and they can use their services to locate that person. But I can't just give you Ian's social security number and say, "Hey, that you just can't do that."
For the fellas that didn't have your expertise when they signed their agreements, do you have any advice for men that are currently on child support to get modifications, or do you counsel in any way to help them that may be paying a little bit too much or may want to get some modifications in their current child support case?
So modifications, it's a tricky thing, because anybody, in order to get a modification, there has to be a significant change in circumstances. So just say Rashad is on child support and he says, "Okay, I lost my job. I go down to the court to get a modification. I lost my job." So what they're going to look and say, "Okay, well, Mr. Rashad, you made in 2023, you made $80,000. You have
a day.
You have the you have the potential to make that $80,000 a day. So therefore, you don't qualify for a modification. You have the potential to make. So it doesn't matter that the fact that you lost your job, that doesn't matter. But the thing is, when a modification, is also part of consent, because you're asking a modification, a motion, you're recognizing the court's authority, and you're giving them jurisdiction over you. They have something very tricky. It's something called a general appearance. That says for when a person walks into that courtroom for any reason that recognizes the court's authority, you're giving them jurisdiction over you, and the jurisdiction challenge is waived. You're waiving all your rights. To combat that, a person has to go in there and say, I'm not making a general appearance or making something called a special appearance, which now a lot of states are trying to pull back from special appearance because it's costing them money.
So, all right, child support, it almost ruined your life, right? You got out of that, but owing $25,000 at 24, that could potentially ruin your life. And the story, it wasn't your kid. What's some of the worst stories that you've heard? I'm sure a lot of people reach out to you. What's some of the worst stories? Because I want to. This is important for people to understand, right? Because a lot of people don't have sympathy for people that's paying child support. Or they're like, look, you made the baby. It's on you. I don't want to hear about it. They had never been through the system. Going through the child support system, it's like the bullpen. Like you with the riffraff. Like you with the riffraff.
Yeah, for real.
With the riffraff. It's like if you are a real person that is like, you know, a real responsible person, it's humiliating. It's actually very humiliating to actually have to go
it's demoralizing.
So I want to I think this is important for people to kind of have a different framework. So can you told your story, but paint a picture of how child support can ruin somebody's life.
How child support can ruin somebody's life. So the first story that comes to my mind is a young lady, and we had this conversation, and I posted it last year. It was a female. She had sole custody of her kids. Her ex-husband went and got on the county and said that he has the kids. They started a child support case against her, and they start garnishing her checks, even though the children lived with her. He lived in a whole nother county. She had to go and fight to prove that the kids resided with her. And she never got served. They said that they served her at her home. Her employer came to the hearing and said that she was at work on this day. And they said, well, that doesn't matter. It's insufficient because the process server certified under penalty of perjury that they served you at your home. So they wanted to modify it to 0. And, you know, just from the education that I provided and my One Credit guy provided, she was like, look, I don't want no modification. I want it actually dismissed. So they end up dismissing her case. But these are some of the horror stories. To one guy, he was put on child support at 5 years old.
What?
I bullcrap you not.
Oh, what?
When you look at his original summons, it has his birthday saying he was been on child support since he was 5 years old. Now, obviously, this was a clerical mistake, but they have it on his record that he's been on child support since 5 years old, and they've been charging him, and they will not correct it at all. People that have been incarcerated said that they were served personally where they was in the feds. One of my guys, he just got his case dismissed in December. He was on child support for 23 years, suspended his license, bank levies, all of these things. He was incarcerated when they said that they actually served him personally. He went in, he took one of my master classes. We looked at they dismissed his case after 23 years. Even in my situation, the process server said that they served me, which I later proved they served me at a vacant house. The house was vacant. I had to subpoena Los Angeles County Department of Water and Power to come testify on my behalf. So I made LA County testify against LA County to say, look, on this date at this time, we didn't even have no service there. They don't care. Why? Because they get incentivized on the back end. So what was the number?
Well, what are the incentives? 33 billion?
32 billion. 32 billion. Yeah, 32.7.
But was that the incentives, or is that just the money that they collected?
That's the money they collected.
So, but here's the thing. On top of that, based on their performance, is 42 USC 658A incentive payments to states. The states get incentivized on the back end based on their performance on how much they collect child support. They get an actual kickback. So how can you get a fair trial under due process in a state hearing where the states are getting a kickback based on their performance to put you on child support in the first place? How?
It's almost like a mutual fund.
Come on now.
Yeah, to keep the entitlements off the state. In your opinion, is child support fair for the child? I know a lot of men often have a complaint that, well, I pay child support, but most of it isn't going to my kid. What insight or advice do you have for the men that feel that?
Well, and this is not even my opinion. I just stick straight to the facts. There's a Supreme Court case, and I hate to be the Supreme Court case law guy, but it's there. It's a Supreme Court case law called Blessing versus Freestone. Well, 5 women from Arizona their children were on a county, and they were only getting a small portion of the money. And they're like, well, where's all the money going? My husband or my ex said they take in thousands and thousands, but I'm only getting hundreds. Where's all the money going?
Yeah.
Child support said, look, that's not your money. That's our money. They actually told on themselves to keep the money. So they said in Blessing versus Freestone, child support services themselves said child support was never intended to benefit the child nor the custodial parent. It was intended to benefit the state. In that case, they also said that there's no entitlement to child support. There's no constitutional right to child support at all. So this is not my opinion. This is fact. These are all researchable, Googleable facts. You can find it.
I think in California, one of these states, somebody had recommended reparations, child support reparations. You remember that? Remember that?
What?
Yeah. I remember seeing something like that. It's it's a lot, man. It's a deep rabbit hole, and they don't play. So you actually no, I don't believe that it's fair. Is not fair at all, because when you're getting a kickback, how is it fair? If you are getting a kickback to put people in this position, how is that fair? The 14th Amendment says that no person can be denied their life, liberty, freedom, or property without due process of law. You have a right to be heard and a right to a fair trial. You can't get a fair trial when these people are incentivized on the back end to put you in child support in the first place.
Well, the other side of it is, what about the men who don't take care of their children, don't see their kids for 2 or 3 years at a time, don't provide much help, and leave all of it on the mother?
They get everything that comes to them. They need to be on child support. They need to be in jail. Everything. Like, I'm just being fact.
Take the passport, everything.
All that. You don't deserve that. You forfeited that right. You forfeited that right. If you are a deadbeat parent, mother or man, you get whatever you got coming to you.
Oh man, this is an interesting topic, man. This is an interesting topic.
And just to give a little history on what is child support. Like, child support is a marketing strategy for Title 4D. I'm gonna say that again. Child support is a marketing strategy for Title 4D. What is Title 4D? Title 4D is the enforcement unit that goes after to collect the money from the non-custodial parents. But to understand, and that's Title 4D of the Social Security Act. But to understand Title 4D, we must understand Title 4A. Title 4A is the government assistance program that was put into law in 1935. But in 1935, women couldn't work at that time. So if a man went to war or left his woman with the children, she couldn't support herself. So that program needed to be in place. I'm all for it. But the problem is, in 1975, when they did amendment of the program, they give out a grant. It says it on the website. It's a block grant to assist in needy families. Have either of y'all ever received a grant?
No.
No. But if you look at the word grant, what is a grant? A grant is a gift. What is a gift? A gift is something that's given without any counterbalancing payment. So you don't have to pay back a grant. But then you have an amendment in 1975, which forces the non-custodial parent to pay back a grant. There's a problem. And we're still operating under these procedures that were started in 1935. And here we are in 2024.
TJ, appreciate you, my brother. We got to have you back for sure.
Yeah, we got to have you back.
How can the people follow you? Your social media and all that?
Everything is child support is fraud. That's on childsupportisfraud.com. Child support is fraud on Instagram. Child support is fraud on YouTube.
Child support is fraud, ladies and gentlemen.
But take care of the
Hell of a
kids,
name,
though,
too.
man.
Take care of the kids. Don't be no bitch.
This ain't no get out of jail free card.
It's never an excuse for somebody to not take care of their kids.
That's a fact.
Let's be honest. But the child support system is riddled with corruption, failure, and is definitely in need for reform for sure. So the first thing that you should do is be mindful when you're in a relationship, if you're having unprotected sex, about having a kid. That's the first thing that you should do, right? And teach your children about that as well. But things happen. And if you find yourself in this situation, the next thing that you should do is be fully educated on the law. That's important. And also, I think, be civil in communication as much as possible with the parent. It's always better to work out a payment schedule outside the court system. You never want the government in your pockets. I'm a firm believer in that. So you're going to have to take care of your kid. You can't. So if you can work out a civil situation where you're paying the wife, the mom, whoever, and vice versa, that's easier than having to go to the court system and them telling you how much you have to pay, them taking it out of your paycheck. And you don't want to fall in that situation.
Joint physical custody. Men and women can get joint physical custody. That means both.
It's tougher in some states, though.
But a lot of people playing that custody game to get money.
Yep, make you get money. Yep.
Yeah. So
they because that's another thing. The court system is never in favor of the father. Never. In any regard.
It's rare.
It's never in favor of the father. This is in theory. This is a fact. So when you're trying to go for custody, the odds are against you. If you're trying to give custody over a child and you're a man, the mom has to be unfit. Like she got to be on drugs.
Drugs. Yeah.
No. That's objection. I cannot.
Okay. Well, we're gonna talk in Texas. When I went through it, my lawyer was like, unless she is on drugs and you catch her, you can pay the extra money to me, but I'm just gonna fuck it off on a car.
There's a Supreme Court case law called Santowski versus Kramer, which says that every natural parent has a fundamental liberty interest in the care, custody, and management of their child. If she can't prove that you are unfit, history of drugs, neglect, or abuse, and you attach that with Santowski versus Kramer and 42 USC 1301D, they cannot deny that person their parental rights unless they can prove that that person has drugs, neglect, or abuse.
But there's also that's great information. But there's also a thing called when you get in front of a judge who 9 times out of 10 is a white judge, and they're looking at you as a black man, they already have a set mind frame that you're a degenerate, that you don't want to take care of the kid, and that's how they're going to treat you. So it's important. And a lot of times, unfortunately, when you go in front, you don't have a lawyer, right? So people's representing themselves. They go in front of a judge, and it's
lacked in that courtroom. Family.
Oh, it's worse than a public defender. Like you're going to get like raked across the coals, and there's no sympathy. There's no sympathy for you. Like they're going to say, okay, you got to pay $1,000 a month. Go to this child support. They're going to do it. You're going to have to wait in line. You're going to have to. They're going to take incorrect amounts out. They're going to take 1,000. 2 weeks in a row, then you got to go back and be like, no, you took the wrong amount. It's no sympathy. There's no sympathy, man.
Or even in my case, in mediation, the mediator told me, why are you even trying to negotiate? You got it. I said, damn. Like, I'm already, shout out to Sanders, mom, love you dearly. Thank you for my child. You're amazing, mom. I can be anybody better. But I said, God damn, the mediator gonna tell me, like, why are you even trying to negotiate? I wanted your social, Red Panda's 10,000, the little trading program 40, just pay it.
Just pay it.
I said, oh, I'm screwed. If this is the mediator.
That's the mediator. Wow. That's the mediator.
So okay. Got to call Governor Abbott. Start donating every little 5,000 dinner y'all got. Y'all mad at that $500 date. Governor Abbott called me $5,000 dinners. I got you. I'm there, my boy. We need to talk. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh man. All right, TJ, I appreciate you, bro.
Man, I appreciate
Thank
you
you,
guys
man.
for having me. You guys are the biggest, and man, I appreciate you for even putting me on this platform, man. I thank
Of course, man. Keep doing your thing, man. I appreciate you.
you for sure.
Shout out to TJ.
TJ.
Oh man, look, man, it's one of these
That was a rough day in mediation, boy.
things.
She was not joking.
Mediation.
She's
Oh,
like, why are you even trying to investor? And you got that? I'm like, how you get all this information? I'm like, oh, okay, got you.
yeah, it's one of these things, man. Like I said, it's one of these things. You can't have a full appreciation for something until you actually go through it. And then you see, like, okay, nah, this ain't right. This isn't right. Like, then it's like, okay, I can understand how so many people fall into rears and how so many people get frustrated. And like I said, I don't think anybody really ends up winning because a lot of times the mother's not getting enough money to even support a child. And then the child's just having a strong resentment because there's issues with it breaks apart families. So we can advocate. We advocate for people to be responsible before
take care of your kids.
But if you take care of your kids, but also let that be the last resort. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
Let child support be the last resort, right? Sometimes you got no choice. It's the last resort. Okay, all right, screw it. But don't make that the first resort, please. Please.
Yeah. For context, Snapchat revenue last year, $4.6 billion.
$37 billion.
Come on, bro.
Come on, man.
That's collected. That's not any investing, anything in mutual holdings, interest payments. Man, y'all think Vanguard and BlackRock something. This is the crazy part. No one knows where all that money is pooled and who's the CEO.
Nobody's
You
asking.
got an endless fund.
That's a fact. Nobody's asking. Nobody asks any questions in life.
Nope.
All right, switching gears. Boeing. This is wow. This is like straight out of a movie, huh?
Yeah.
What the hell, man?
Rest in peace to the gentleman that lost his life, the whistleblower. He used to work there. The crazy part about all the stuff that Boeing is going through, like Boeing used to be a engineering dream to work at. Then they merged, and then the company kind of went to shit. And it's two groups of people like that work there. One from the old guard that believe they were like the Apple of the plane world. They were like the most innovative company at one point. And once that merger happened, they began to cut costs and cut corners, and the quality has went away. And when this gentleman started testifying, I mean, a good note is like if you are competing against somebody and their lawyers or somebody from corporate tells you to stay another day, it's usually not in your best interest.
All right. So let's switch gears. Let's talk about Boeing. This is a very interesting and crazy story. I'll just like give a high level overview of it. So John Barnett, he was scheduled to testify. So he was the whistleblower, right? As far as with Boeing. And he was forced to retire, they said, like 10 years early. He was 62 years old. And he was scheduled he said he was blackballed from promotions, had harassment at the workplace, suffered PTSD and panic attacks, and all because he kind of blew the whistle on faulty issues that were going on at Boeing, right? And he was supposed to go to court the other day on March 9th, I believe. And when he didn't show up to court, his lawyers,
reached out to him.
Long story short, they found him in a Holiday Inn. This is the night before he was supposed to testify. They found him in the night in a Holiday Inn parking lot, I believe, in his Dodge Ram truck, shot in the head. What they're saying is a self-inflicted wound. So they're saying that he killed himself. They said that there was a white piece of paper, a note with something on it, I guess like a suicide note is what they're saying. They haven't actually released what he said. But now what's interesting is that aside from the fact that it was the night before he was supposed to testify, they said that he was, quote, he was in a good mood the evening before, so looking forward to testifying on Saturday.
And he said in video, if anything happened to me, it wasn't suicide.
You know, it's one of these things, bro. Yeah. What do you think about this situation?
If we're gonna be very honest, man, if rappers are willing to die over blocks they don't own, this is the other side of corporate that people don't get to see. He isn't the first one. God rest his soul, bless his family. I hope you guys get justice. But Boeing, I don't know if you were up watching a murder mystery at USA, but this is like the most obvious case of foul play we've seen. Like this happened to Gary Webb back in the day, but at least when it happened to him, they tried to make it seem like
allegedly
it was allegedly. But the thing with Boeing is, like, as a company, they lost their way after the merger happened. So for those who don't know, at one point Boeing was like the Apple of their day when it came to plane innovation, like making the 737, the 747. In the 60s, they were the darling tech company, if you will, of its day. And then when they merged, the company began to cut corners and try and save costs. Like even that Indonesia flight, because of a faulty error in the tracking sensor on the front of the plane, caused that plane to nosedive. So, and opposed to putting the money into innovation, research and development to make the planes better, they initiated a hell of a stock buyback program for the longest time. And hearing some of this information over the years is one of the reasons why I'm like, you can't put your investment into companies that are backed by engines and planes. Like they made a hard left turn to go away from an engineering heaven to then try and cut costs. Like at one point they moved the headquarters from Washington to Chicago, but the manufacturing was done in Washington. That makes no sense. Like you need to be close to where the actual product is made. And I think this is one of the greatest examples of when corporate greed takes over. And now, I mean, Kenny talked about it last week. He went crazy on Diddy, but like when you don't want the truth to be revealed about what you're doing, you will go to some lengths that you don't need to go to try and save an empire that's going to fall anyway. Yeah, so bless this gentleman for trying to. And even with me, like I fly United, most of their planes are Boeing. That's affected how much I wanted to travel as a result. I was tough on the CEO of Kellogg's about telling people to eat cereal. But I think the entire fucking board of Boeing needs to step down. If you've been manufacturing, trying to save costs and putting people's lives in danger, how are you still publicly traded? Like there should be a halt on the stock until the entire management changes or the government buys it out outright. But bless his brother's soul. God rest his soul. Prayers to his family. But for those of you who don't know, there is a dark side of corporate that you don't see. And this is one of the cases that happen. I mean, it's happened with people in the automotive industry that have powered cars to go off water and hydrogen. Then they end up in a ravine. And then the patent gets taken and absorbed by a bigger automotive company. So when you are blowing the whistle or telling the truth, it comes at a price.
Oh, pause. Blowing the whistle is crazy.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's wild. But I mean, it's one of these things. If you blowing the whistle, it comes at a cost. That's crazy. But
mine be free, you know what I mean? That's y'all be tricking off. Hey, gotta get off your swag, not off the bag, you know what I mean? Trick Daddy. It's only one Trick Daddy in Miami. A lot of y'all be doing too much.
Too much.
Ooh, and y'all be paying to go on a poppy steak and still not getting the job done. Oh my God.
It's one of these things where you bring up Gary Webb, and if you're not familiar with him, he's the gentleman that broke the story on Freeway Ricky Ross and the Contras and the Iran-Contra scandal with Nicaragua, where pretty much the U.S. government funded drugs from the rebels in Nicaragua to come to America, to the inner city of LA and the West Coast, and it spread all over. And the reason why they did that was because they wanted to, there's a whole thing with overthrow the government. They thought the government was communist. So that was their way of kind of funding the rebels to fight them. And then they were sending money to Iran to fight the government in Iran to try to overthrow them. But he wrote a whole expose on this. Yeah. And he won awards. They actually ended up making a movie and wrote a book, and then he ended up killing himself, allegedly.
Yeah.
So this is one of these things, right? Where a guy, because Boeing, remember, that's the plane where the door just blew off a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes.
So he was about to testify about how they have so many issues when it comes to safety and how they've been ignoring it and how they've, turned a black eye. He already got blackballed, he said, for years, and they made him retire early. So this was his opportunity to actually speak his mind, talk freely to the world about the issues. And miraculously, the night before he's about to testify, he ends up with a bullet in his head.
Allegedly, after the lawyers just tell him to stay another day. But meanwhile, everyone in Senate is arguing about TikTok. CCP hasn't put anyone's lives in jeopardy. I know the propaganda and they want to steal our data. Let's be honest. When all these breaches happened, these companies are selling that data. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Word up the day.
Revenues down. Hey, India, you want all of our user data?
Word of the day is allegedly.
Like, come on, man.
Word of the day is allegedly. Yeah, but
it's heartbreaking, man. Truth comes at a cost, though.
For sure, man. It's one of these things where it's like, a lot of the time people think, oh, it's just a conspiracy, or it's like, all right, well, business is, when you're dealing with billions of dollars,
listen,
be mindful.
Be mindful. But some people will go to war for 2,000-3,000 and then BMF days 17 and a half and get something done. But there's billions of dollars on the line, and they care so much about the stock price over the last 10 or 15 years with the buyback program. Like, that was more of a focus than the actual safety and innovation on the planes. Like, the airline industry at some point needs a huge reform, needs better leadership, and I hope this will shine a light on a lot of the issues that have been going on. And also, too, the wait times, like between when a plane lands and takes back off, they can barely clean the plane. Also, on the fundamental side, like they did the report, the investigative report, I'm sure you saw it. They asked the people who put the planes together, would you fly on here? One guy said, yeah, but I have a death wish, so I probably would.
I have a death wish?
Yeah, he said, I have a death wish, so I probably would. One guy said, fuck no. So if the people who work there are not excited or fanatical or wouldn't use the product, that is telling you a lot. That's telling you a lot.
Before we leave, some lightning round of hot topics.
Oh God.
Is it a red flag or turn off for a woman when a woman is open or vocal about having a dating roster? Like, if you're talking to a girl and she's openly telling you that she's currently also dating and talking to two other people or another guy.
Am I number one on the roster or no? And are we just having fun? Like, if I'm trying to build with her, no, I want to hear about your hotels. I'm cool. But if you're just gonna be here for 2 or 3 months, or just through InvestFest, shit, put all us in the group chat. Do like I used to do. Put everybody in the group chat. Get them to let them know each other. Let's bond. So I don't got to reply to all these different memes and shit. Like, one little streamlined chat, Telegram. Let's get it popping. But no, like, if I like you, no, I don't want to hear about your roster. Like, nah, I'm cool. If I'm not number one and the only at that point, I'm out the window.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you?
It's not an open tryout.
Got you.
Not an open tryout for me. Like, it's not. I want all the attention. Like, I want it all to
all or none.
All or none. I'm not playing. I'm not in competition. Look, it's a filtering process, and we work too hard to
deal with any bullshit.
I've worked too hard to. I'm not doing that. That's unimaginable. I can't even imagine. Like, no, you never know what somebody's doing behind closed doors. But I can't even imagine a girl telling me, you're part of my rotation. I can't even imagine that.
If she's just a slut, will you care? Because back in the day, my thing was go out on your little dates because I ain't taking you out. Hey, when I tell you fly yourself out, please don't go on Boeing. Please don't. But go to dinner with whoever you want to, and then come to me after. Fellas, you got to be careful about being a nice guy all the time.
Mr. Nice Guy.
Hey, you serving her and she's serving me later. You gotta chill. You gotta pick. You gotta pick. But yeah, I mean, like, if I don't care about you, like, I really don't care what you do or how you operate. But like, if I got feelings for you, you know, I think you could be my baby one day. Nah, hell no. Fellas, y'all got to put y'all foot down. Like, even the 2 argument per year rule, I know some of y'all like, you tripping. There's nothing to argue about. If I argue with my friends, I'll argue with my business partner, my mom, my dad, my kid, well, I'm going to argue with somebody I love and I'm taking care of. I'm cool. Put your foot down.
For sure. What's your biggest mistake in business?
It's a great question. Listening to these dodos on the internet and not selling more. And listening to it charge too much. Every time y'all say that now, I'm gonna take the motherfucking price up. Please keep going. Going back to that thing of net margin. And probably just not executing on some things faster, but listening to the worry about, is he charging too much? Like, for the return that I'm getting, shot to Eltman, like, he put it up today, like, yo, I got an NVIDIA 178. Like, whatever I charged in Red Panda, it was worth that just for that information. So that would be my one, not catering exclusively to like a more premium audience, despite what the haters are saying. What about you?
Man, a lot.
It's a bunch of lessons, right? Yeah.
A lot of lessons, man. But
no girl ever said you was a part of a roster ever in life.
No, I'm not doing
you
that.
Ain't going for it.
I'm not doing that. I ain't doing that, bro. I'm be honest with you, man. I'm not doing that, bro.
Back in the day, you left out a La Marina. Hey, Shawty, I like you so much. Oh my God. One of the Dominicans, yo, but you number 3. What you doing? Nope.
I was never number 3. I was never Shawty. That's the only number 3. That's the only number 3. I'm not doing that, bro. Like, I feel like, because no.
You got to train him how to treat you.
We're not doing that. And it's not even a look, sometimes you don't ask a question if you don't want the answer, right? So it's not my, like, if I casually see somebody once every 6 months, I'm not even talking to them enough to even I'm not even gonna
care about that. Yeah.
I'm not even gonna put myself in that situation. But subconsciously, I want them, even in that moment, to never talk to anybody. I want the nuns. I want you to be a nun. You know what I'm saying? I want the nun. I want the nun treatment until I'm back in town. Ideally, is it realistic? Of course not. But you can still, that's the type of vibe that, I would feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, curate.
You're going to do what you're going to do. But as far as to openly tell somebody, like, look, you're, and then it's like, may the best man win type shit.
I wish a motherfucker would.
No, sir.
Destroy you and get rid of you so fast, yo.
No, sir.
Ain't gonna get something better next week.
Last question. Last question before we wrap.
No, you have one of your biggest mistake in business. My bad, I cut you off.
It's so many learning lessons, but I feel like
they do a documentary on this, right? Man.
Not understanding that, nobody understanding that there's going to be very few. It's like Kobe, right? Like, understanding that it's hard to play with players that don't have a Mamba mentality. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you're willing to jump off a building
and give your all,
you think that everybody else is willing to jump off a building. Me, I don't care.
Yep.
I don't care. Like, we filming at 7 o'clock in the morning. 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, whatever. I don't care. 12 o'clock at night, we gotta do this. We gotta meet this person. We got a phone call. I don't care, because that's how I always was. I always was like that for everything that I did. I never cared about anything except for getting the job done. Like, crazy. And it's like, if you're an extreme person like that, like, that's not normal, and it's probably not the best way to go about life, right? Like, you have a lot of sacrifices that you're going to make, and you're probably not going to live a balanced life. But you kind of, if you isolated in that bubble, and you think everybody's going to think like that, and then when everybody doesn't think like that, you get disappointed. But that's a expectation that you put on somebody that doesn't think the same way that you think, right? So that's only going to lead to frustration and disappointment. So just learning that early is helpful, because I feel like if you're an entrepreneur, you got to understand that people that you work with, employees, whatever, nobody's going to have the same drive and passion that you have.
As you.
The quicker you understand that, the better you'll be able to navigate that. The longer you take to understand that, it's going to be extremely frustrating and painful for you.
Yeah. We talked about it before we started. It's been people reaching out to me like, hey, I'm about to get evicted. Can I get a crazy amount? I'm like, come record with me on Tuesday. Be on Stock Club call with me Saturday. Do any research. Don't want the job. Want the check. I'm sorry. Cannot do it. And like, I watched that Last Dance probably like every quarter. I'm like, damn, if Mike had an Akeem or a Kevin Duckworth.
Nas has a great line where he said, don't expect more when you put in less work than all of them. Sometimes people don't even realize that they work. I have to teach my son. You have to teach people how to work. I got to teach my son. He doesn't fully understand the level of work ethic. Like, he plays basketball. He thinks going to the park and playing 3-on-3 is like working out. Like, you got to teach somebody that level of discipline and work ethic and determination. And it's like, a lot of times people have expectations for things that they've never contributed to. Right. And it's like that level of entitlement is hurtful for not only the person, but also the whole ecosystem. Right. So it's like nobody will ever appreciate what you've been through. That's what I realized too. Nobody's ever going to appreciate what you're like. I can't appreciate what you're doing, because I'm not with you 24/7. I have an idea, but I don't have a full appreciation. Nobody can. You can't appreciate anybody else's situation. Right. So what that leads to is just a lot of times assumptions. I'm assuming I know what you do. I'm assuming I know your schedule. I don't know your schedule. I'm assuming I know your schedule, right? But your schedule could be completely different than what I know. You could be waking up at 4:30 in the morning trading futures. Like, I don't know that.
Yeah, but all the hustlers can see. This was been so fun doing this show, like putting on another gear. And for me, even walking out of a comfort zone, and people like, why you're doing it? I'm like, well, if you're building a media company, you need diversity in the media that you do. The Golf Channel didn't fucking work. Can't show golf all day. Like, when you study what Les Moonves did in the building of CBS, the structure of shows was really important. Like, but not everyone wants to put in that work. Like, I'll watch Kobe. Everyone loves Kobe now in passing. When he was alive, he was called an asshole and vilified, and all he wanted people to do was work hard. Same with MJ, same with Patty Mahomes, same with Brady. I mean, of course, maybe we could lead better. That's always a pushback, but my thing is like, hey, just do the work, and the leadership would be easy.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
All right, man. I have another question, but I want to say
therapy.
I want to say.
You want to say? Okay.
I'll say it because it's actually it's a good question. But I think we had a great show. We covered a lot of different topics, and the child support thing is crucial. For sure. Yeah. All right, my brother.
Man, I appreciate you. Let us know what y'all thought in the comments. I appreciate y'all so much. The child support topic is
and we got to get this live. We got to get this live calling vibe going. That has to happen.
Absolutely.
All right, my brother.
I appreciate you.
Peace.